I'll do a review in my Mori Melukot in volume 4, Chelik Dalet. This is the 13th Maimer. This is the Maimer of ציון במשפט תפדה ושווה בצדקה, which the Rebbe said on Yom השלישי, on Tuesday, שהוכפל by Kitov, which has two times Kitov. And the Rebbe said this on Erev Rosh Chodesh Menachem of Tuesday was the eve before Rosh Chodesh Menachem of. Rosh Chodesh Menachem of was on Wednesday, and this was the Fabrengen, the Mimer, was said on Tuesday in the year Tafshin Lamed Hey. And then later on, it was published in that same year uh, before, and also the following Mimer on Tuesday, a week later, on Zion Menachemov, Hey Tafshin Lamed Hey, a week later, they published this Mimer. And this Maimer is a Hanocha. Some Mogadika Maimorim have the Hanocha that it was put down by others who heard the Maimer. And I know sometimes it has Hanocha, sometimes, most of the time it doesn't have, but some of the Mogadika Maimorim have Hanocha. In any event, the Rebbe starts the Maimer with ציון במשפט תפדה ושווה בצדקה. So while the Rebbe explains this is the Navi of Yeshaya, in which we read in the Shabbos Chazoin, the Shabbos before Tisha B'Av. And even though on the surface we read it, is because this seems supposed to reflect this Haftorah, the punishment. Chazoin Yeshayahu ben Amotz asher chazal Yehuda vel Yerushalayim, that he saw the destruction that is forthcoming on Yehuda and Yerushalayim. But yet, the same Haftorah, even though we read it in the beginning is with destruction, punishment, the end of the Haftorah is seen by Mishpat Tipada, talks about the Geula, talks about the redemption. And the Rebbe explains that in the Novi Yeshaya, as is brought down in the Gemara, that Yeshaya is all comfort. Yirmiyah is all punishment, the Navi, the prophet Yirmiyah. But the prophet Yeshaya is Kula Nechemta. But what does it mean, Kula Nechemta? But we do see that there's some destruction in as in this Chazon Yeshayahu. But the Rebbe says the destruction is such gevuras, there's strictness that are hidden kindness, and they're called gvuras mimutokim, as the Rebbe will explain. So let's look inside. Tzin b'mishpat tepode v'shovehu b'tzedakah. Hine pasuk zeh hu b'tchila sefer Yeshaya. This verse is the opening of the book of Yeshaya in the first Perek of Yeshaya. It's at the end of the Perek, but it's in the opening, in the first chapter. She'inyone shel Yeshaya kishmoi kein hu. What is Yeshaya's aspect? What is Yeshaya? Yeshaya is comfort. As his name says, Yeshayo, the name of Yeshaya, that's him, Miloshin Yeshua. Yeshaya from the language of salvation. Like the Gemara, like we find in the Gemara, Yeshaya Kuli Nechemta. All of Yeshaya is comfort. So what it means is that to such an extent, it's so comfort. Shafilu Eloha Inyonim Benevuas Yeshaya Shalichayda Einam Yeshua. Even those aspects within the prophecy of Yeshaya that seemingly are not salvation. They too are in truth salvation and comfort. The Gemara says, Kula nechemta, it's all comfort, even though it seems like they're not salvation. As explained in the Kabbalah, shehem bechinas gevuris mimutokis, so that they are sweetened gevuris, which means that the appearance of them is gevuris, But sweetened means that beneath them is the salvation and the comfort. Ulefi Yeshua Geula Ha'asida Tia Alidei Misika Gevuris. And because the salvation, the Geula of the future, is going to come by sweetening the Gevuris, it's not going to be by lichatchila chesed. It's going to be gevuris, but it's coming by sweetening the gevuris, which means there's going to be difficulties, and those difficulties will be sweetened that it will come out over there the salvation for them. But and because of that, v'lochein yitzchok yiyeh iker chulu, and that's why who is going to be the main player, the main of the forefathers, who we're going to connect to in the future is going to be Yitzchak. We know Avram is Chesed, Yitzchak is Gevura, and Yaakov is Tiferes. The Gemara, the Pasuk says, the Gemara says, "Shalosid lova yomru liYitzchak davke ki ata avinu." That the future, we will say, Yitzchak, you are our father, because Yitzchak inyan hagavuris. Yitzchak is the level of gavuris. And therefore, Yitzchak, which is the Ula Hasida, is through mituk hagavuris, but nevertheless is gavuris. And therefore, Yitzchak is the main player there. L'chein, so therefore, because it's all Yeshuv and Nechama, but some of it is open and some of it is hidden. L'chein, by Yeshua's Sefer Yeshayahu, in the salvation in the book of Yeshaya, Yeshnam HaYeshua's Shebebechinas Chasodim Hagluyim. We have salvation which are in a level of revealed kindness. By Yeshua's, and also those salvation, the Bechinas Gvuris Memutokim, Gvuris that are sweetened, which is Gvuris Shenapachim Chasodim. Sweetened Gvuris means that they're Gvuris that are turned to Chasod. What's the difference between Chesed and Gvuris that turn to Chesed? Sheheim Nailim Yeiser. Gvuris that are turned to Chesed are higher, are more elevated in Chasodim Hagluyim than the revealed Chasodim. So similarly is also in the prophecy that starts off the book of Yeshaya. There have the two categories. Mesayim Bishnai. So he concludes with the two that ציון b'mishpat tefda b'shaveho b'tzedakah. The two levels. There is ציון, which is only tefda, because it never goes into captivity, is just in exile. You have to redeem it, but it's not in captivity. And then you have a second level, Vishaveho, you have part of it which actually goes and becomes enslaved to the other side with Tzedakah, Kidl Kamon. And we have both of these aspects, and they are redeemed. So that we have Gvuris, and we have Gvuris Memutokis, that the Gvuris are sweetened. Kidl Kamon, as the Rebbe will explain later on. The Rebbe will go into detail to explain in various different levels the two madregas of ציון, which is only in exile, and the madrega of Shoveha, those captives, which actually are fully taking hostages into the other side. And the Tziyun is redeemed with Torah, b'mishpat. And the Shaveha, those are actually coveted at tzedakah, as the Rebbe will explain. It'll come on. Base. V'hinei mevuer bahadrushim dibra maschil tzim b'mishpat tipoda v'shaveha v'tzedakah. In the memorim of Dibra Mas that opened with Tzim b'mishpat tipoda v'shaveha v'tzedakah, l'chveit kedushas admar hazokim rabbi Yisraenu nisienu ma'alim mekoymei, to the Alter Rebbe, and then the other Rabbeim, our leaders, those who filled the place later on of the Alter Rebbe, that in this pasuk he discusses two levels. Tziyun, first the level of Tziyun. So the level of Tziyun, and we're going to discuss this on different levels. First, we're going to discuss it within the person. The person has a neshama. There is one part of the neshama which is called Tziyun, and then within the neshama there's another part which is koiches hagiluyim. That's not just a marker, not just a Tziyun, as the Rebbe will explain, and then we'll also further on in the Maimer explain the other places where there are two levels of Tziyun and the level of Shabbat. So first, what are we going to say? That Tziyun, when we talk about the level of Tziyun, im hayisa begolus, although it is in exile, shalachein tzricha pedia. That's why you need to redeem it. If it didn't even go, if it's a level that doesn't go to golus, then you don't have to redeem it. But while it is in golus, while you need to redeem it, but it's not in captivity. Within golus, it's not in captivity. And that's why to redeem it from exile, from its level, mishpat is with Torah. Then you have ubechinas vishoveho. You have a level of the neshama which actually becomes captive. Shem shvuyim mamesh, they are actual captives. And the way to redeem them from their captivity, which that is dafka with tzedakah. The Rebbe will explain the different levels that the part of the neshama can become the level of tzin of the neshama. The level of the etzem neshama can be in exile through the acts of the part of the neshama that is begoli. It brings down also the level of the tziyun of the neshama, but it's only in golus, it's not in captivity. But then we have the koiches hagaluyim, which can even be in the level of shivya. And to explain the idea of these two levels by the person. Hainu, we're going to explain it we're going to explain it by a person, meaning by the soul, how these two levels in the soul, that's the main part of the person is the soul. As it says in Tanya, chapter 32, that is the person, is his neshama. The atem kruyim adam, because we see the whole person, we're saying the two levels on adam, but who is adam? Who's the two levels of adam? Atem kruyim adam. Why are Yidden specifically are called adam, not anyone, not the other nations, only a Yid? Because it's al shem adam el'elye. Because the neshama of a Yid is similar, it's Adam, it's the word Adame that comes from the root. To compare, it's compared Le'elyin, and that's only the neshama, that's not the guf. So within the Adam, within the neshama, we have two levels. Hine ha-neshama yeshna kafi shehi l'maylo mihislapshus beguf. The neshama, there is the part of it which is higher than dressing up in the body. The part of the neshama that doesn't come down in the body, which is the etzem ha-neshama, the essence of the soul. Or pnimius halev, the inner of the heart, the chulu. That's the inside, the deeper part, not the part which is revealed that comes down in the revealed way. And then we have the other part of the neshama, the part of the soul that dressed up in the body. Generally speaking, those are the revealed powers of the soul. The soul, the neshama, has chokhmah, it has intellect, it has emotions. Those parts of the neshama come down into the body. Shehem b'bchinas hislapshus, they dress up in the body. Hanikra regel shebeneshama, that part of the neshama which dresses up and comes down, that's the foot of the neshama. The head of the neshama, the essence of the neshama, stays higher. It doesn't come down into the body. That's the etzem neshama. That's the pnimius alev. The part that comes down, that's the foot of the neshama. So here, this is what the pasuk is saying over here. ציון, that part of ציon is b'mishpat tipada. That will be redeemed to b'mishpat. And v'shaveh, it doesn't really go into captivity. And v'shaveh, the part of the koyches haneshama, you need v'zdok. ציon koyel etzem haneshama. ציon refers to the essence of the soul. That's b'chinas pnimius halev. That's the level of the inner of the heart. Ubebchinas zu, and at that level, in shayich inyan hashivya v'hashibud bil umazeh chas v'shalom. At the level of the pnimius, the etzem haneshama, over there doesn't really apply the whole concept of captivity. To take the essence of the neshama doesn't go into captivity to enslave it on the other side, God forbid, to enslave it, to make it work for the other side. No, that doesn't, the etzem haneshama does not go down. It doesn't apply to it captivity. V'rak inyan hagolus. Over there is only in exile. You can go in exile. As opposed to when we talk about the powers of the soul, those powers of the soul which actually dress up in the body, shayich inyan hashivya, over there applies the idea of captivity on the level of the neshama that dress up in the guf. And here and that we say v'shoveho, those parts of the neshama that actually came down into captivity because they dress up in the guf and therefore they were taken captives, they are redeemed through tzedakah. Shegam koiches haneshama shebebchinas hislapshus beguf, that also the powers of the soul which are on a level that dressed up in the body, shehem shvuyim mamesh bilumazeh, they're actually captives in the other side. Yipodu ali tzedakah, they will be redeemed through tzedakah. These are the two levels: the level of ציון, the etzem haneshama, and the koiches of the neshama. And now we're going to explain this whole idea and why is it called the level of ציון. And the Rebbe explains that the level of ציון, when it functions in the person, when the person feels that etzem haneshama, that gives the person the continuous energy and renewal of Torah. So it's always the essence, because the essence of the neshama doesn't change. It didn't dress up in the guf, and therefore it's always. The Rebbe will explain now. Gimel. In order to explain the concept of the inner of the heart, which we call here ציון, maybe bidrushim hanal, in the above Maimorim, they bring down Mashakosov, what the pasuk says, V'hoyu hadvorim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavucha hayom. The Torah says in the pasuk, in the Vorim, that these words that I tell you today, but What does it mean? The Eibishter is telling you this was said a long time ago. Why are we saying mitzavcha these words that I tell you today? They should be al levavcha ve'al nafshecha, but they were said a long time ago. But Amr Razal, so our sages therefore explain this. What does it mean? I tell you today that b'chol yom yiyu beinecha kechadoshim, that every day there should be in your eyes like something new. So the Eibishter says, if we should feel like the Eibishter is giving us the command today. And how is it possible that is Torah that we got so many years ago, we should feel at it as if it's something new? The tzarich lahavi. How could it possibly be so? Sharizeh de b'chol yom. We're not just saying okay, imagine that it's new, but we're saying that it's really new because there was this idea. The b'chol yom yiv beinech kechadoshim. When we tell you this should be every day like new, tzarich liyas kechol inyonim shebeteiras emes. That needs to be just like all areas of the true Torah. It needs to be be'emes. It needs to be truthfully. So you're truly saying that the Eibishter is as if they was giving to you today. So how can Hashem expect us to see the Torah as if it's new? Since HaKadosh Baruch Hu only asks us what we are able to do, it's evident that it is within the power of the person to reach to this level. But it would seem a person is limited and he's also changes. To say every day you need to look at it as no, that means that it's not going to be a change. It's always going to be by the person in a way like new. How is that possible? We have to therefore employ and reveal our etzav haneshama, which doesn't change. So, but the question is, since a person is limited and he changes, how is it able to reach to this? Every day should be like new. So this is explaining now the level of ציון, the level of the etzem haneshama. So the explanation in this, as understood from the Mamorim above, that ability to be able to always be the Torah renewed comes from the level of the inner of the leiv, which is higher than changes. And therefore, if the ציון of the person, if the etzem haneshama of the person is functioning properly, it's not, we don't need tipoda, we don't need to redeem it, but it's actually functioning the way it should. When the inner of the heart is as it should be, that is openly. So that esem haneshama, that pnimis halev, impacts also the powers of the soul that is dressed up in the body. Not only does it impact the koiches of that it impacts the koiches of the neshama in the body, but also the machshava dibur ma'aseh, the levushim, begam al levushe haneshama, machshava dibur ma'aseh, also the garments of the neshama, which is thought, speech, and action, that they too are impacted by the etzem haneshama when the tziyun is functioning, that they should be proper. If the pnimius halev is proper, which means it's revealed. Pnimius halev is always proper, but it shines what it's doing, what it's supposed to, and it's begilui by the person. Then everything else falls in line. His koiches and also the machshava divrei ma'aseh and the levushim. Shegam bohem yiu divrei Torah chadoshim, that they too should send the idea that the words of Torah are like this. Because through the revelation of the level of the pnimis halev, from that level of tzia in the inner of the heart, Gam koiches hageluyim shel haneshama hem b'shlemusam, also the revealed powers of the soul are also complete. They're wholesome. V'zehu ma sheyisrael nikroim b'posik zeh b'shem tziyah. And this explains why Yidden are called Tziyah. The Rebbe is going to explain the idea that Tziyah is a marker. Tziyah lenefesh chaya. Tziyah is a marker. A marker that represents the etzem and neshama. That all what it is a marker. And really, there is two pshatim in this pasuk. Whether Tziyah goes on Yerushalayim, kimitziya in teitzit tzera dvar Hashem Yerushalayim, that Tziyah is Yerushalayim, or as we are teaching over here, that Tziyah goes on the Etzem HaNeshama. So the Rebbe brings down from the Tzemach Tzedek that the better place to explain this that it goes on the Neshama. This is the Yidden called Tziyah. As the Tzemach Tzedek writes, that the interpretation that says that Sion should be redeemed by Mishpat, Sion koyal ha'ira, close Eretz Yisrael, whether Sion goes on the city of Yerushalayim or a general Eretz Yisrael, that's a little squeeze. That's not so comfortable. We'd rather learn that Sion means what? Sion means the Neshama, the Yid. And therefore we explain that it goes on the Jewish people. That's the Sion that we're talking about here. It's Tzion Huloshin Siman. Why we call it Tzion? Tzion is the language, it's a sign. A sign meaning there's no entity there, it's just a direction. So when you see the person, he directs you to Hashem. He's not anything on his own, that's a total bittul. That's the level of the Etzem HaNeshama. It's Tzion Huloshin Siman. Siman is a lotion of a sign, a marker. When by the person shines, it's functioning, his tzion, the inner of his house is revealed, then he's at the level of tzion, loshen siman, he is at tzion, he's just a sign, as quoting the loshen ano simona ba'alma, that I am just a sign, which is by Rav Shimon by Yechoy, is only a siman, meaning there's no, I'm just a sign. His entire being, his entire essence is only as a sign of the matters of above.